And welcome back, everybody. This is our second session. This is our second session with Miss Tisha Poncio. She is, I'm Joshua Hicks. I'm your host. Just going to introduce and get you all started. And then you'll also notice that Miss Leah Salinas is in here. She's going to be taking down any questions that you may possibly have. So on the sidebar, you'll see that you have a YouTube comment section. Feel free to comment in that. It feeds right into our stream, and we'll take down any questions. We'll write them down for you to ask later at the end, and we'll try to keep up with posting links and keeping things going the way everybody needs to make sure that you're well informed. Don't forget, at the very end of this session, you will need to have your super secret password. It is not the same as the last session, so we'll post that in the lower third, which is down at the bottom here. So be sure to have a pen and pencil ready to write that down or snap a picture. So there's a lot of things that are going to be shared that you're going to want to take pictures of. All righty. Welcome, Tisha.
Thanks, Josh. I am so excited to be with TCCA today. This is always the weekend in October that I look forward to. So I am excited to share with you today on how to use Wakelet for student engagement. And I just want to kind of give you a background of what I do. I am a digital learning coach. This is my 21st year in education. I have been in the classroom. I believe I was in the classroom 8 or 9 years before moving into the coaching role. But I taught all sorts of things: English 1, English 2, broadcasting, programming, webmastering, multimedia. I did yearbook for a while. So my career in education has really kind of been all over the place. But in the last 3 years, I have actually led a student tech leadership team called SWAT. And what I do with SWAT is really teach them learner autonomy. I give them real hands-on learning in the classroom. We sort of run like a business. So I want to give them those skills that they're going to be able to take outside of school and apply those to anything they decide to do in life. The great thing about the class that I teach, I also can use them as guinea pigs for my coaching with my teachers. And so anything that I really want the teachers to do, I try to also model that with my own students. And so that's really where a lot of my presentations come from, and just how I implement things, digital tools with students in the classroom. So I want to just point out that Wakelet is because that's the first thing I always get asked is, what is Wakelet? So I'm going to share my screen with you, and I just want to note that you will have access to the Wakelet that I'm sharing. You will have that link, and because you have that link, you will also have all the links within that for you to use. At the very end of that Wakelet, you'll find my email address, just to make sure that you know how to contact me. So we'll go through that as we move along. But the first thing I'm always asked is, what is Wakelet? So I've realized not everybody knows about Wakelet. I didn't know about Wakelet until about 1.5 years ago. And what Wakelet is really a place to curate links like that in its most basic form. That's how I explain it. I call it Pinterest, but it's much better than Pinterest. It's like Pinterest times 1,000. And I was I'm still a Pinterest user. I love using Pinterest. I have all these collections. And that's really the same idea with Wakelet. The difference in Wakelet and Pinterest is that a Wakelet allows you to add all sorts of artifacts. So I'm just going to show you. This wasn't in my plan to show you, but I want to show you when I edit this Wakelet, you see I can edit a cover image. And, I was talking about creativity last session. I custom create my own headers for the collections, and I also custom create the backgrounds. You can see I did TCA specifically for this one. But the great thing about Wakelet, and here's the difference in Wakelet and Pinterest, because that's what I'm always asked. Wakelet allows me to add website links, to add text, to link and embed YouTube videos. I can add tweets if I want, which I have done below here on this Wakelet. I will tell you, I don't use bookmarks very often. So, if you use it, that's great. I usually skip over this one. I don't know a lot of people that are using bookmarks, but you can. Uploading images. So when my students or I create anything, which is what I tell them to do, create your own stuff so you don't have to get permission. So I can upload a picture, I can upload a PDF, I can link this to my Google Drive, I can link this to OneDrive, and I can also add a Flipgrid video. That is the difference between Wakelet and Pinterest. Pinterest allows me to add pictures and links, but Wakelet allows me all of these opportunities. And because of that, that is where your student engagement is going to come from. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. On this collection specifically, I have put together a beginner Wakelet learning guide specifically for you. So you would click on this link when you have the Wakelet link. So I've shared this with Josh so that you guys can go directly to this link. This collection will walk you through step by step. What is Wakelet? How do you sign up? How do you make a collection, et cetera, et cetera. So I've added that in there. And I've also put in the weekly Wakelet training schedule because they do weekly trainings for beginners and intermediate users. I believe they do those every week so that you can really get a good grasp on how to use Wakelet, so that you can then implement it with your students in your classroom or with your teachers if you're a digital coach. So how can you use Wakelet to communicate? So that's the very first thing. First of all, you need to know I'm a Wakelet ambassador. But when I started using Wakelet, I had no idea what I was doing, and I really didn't see the benefit yet. It took me little by little by little. So I want to encourage you, if you are brand new to Wakelet and you have no idea how this can help you, do not give up, because once you start using it and once you start maybe using it for yourself in communication, you'll see, oh, now I can have my students engage with this. So I want you to remember, I'm going to show you these ways, but always pick the most basic way and start using it yourself. So how do you use Wakelet to communicate? Well, the most simple way is to use it as a website. And so I've linked my other Wakelet account here. And I want to show you this. You can utilize this at any time. It's public. I put this together at the beginning, maybe March or July. I'm not really exactly sure when I started this, but it's a hub. It's a digital learning hub that I created for my teachers and for my district. And rather than doing a typical website in Google Sites, which I've done before, or WordPress, which I also have, or Bulb, there's so many out there. I decided to put it in as a Wakelet collection. And here's why. I have the Wakelet app on my phone, and when I find links on Twitter or in my email or on Instagram, I can immediately add those links into these collections, and my teachers are getting the most updated information. So I use Wakelet as a website. As a digital learning specialist, you could do the exact same thing for your classroom. You could have, important info here, and maybe you have a collection called Contact Me. And so you have all the ways that teachers and parents or students can contact you. I've just organized it on the way it made sense for my particular instance and situation. So I have what is blended and remote learning, and I've given them best practices and digital tips and tech integration models. So we're talking about SAMR and TPAC, and, showing them ways that they can really hit those goals even when they're remote learning. I have learning management systems. So at our school, we're just right now using Google Classroom, but you could have a Schoology collection. You could have a Canvas collection. Screen recordings and meetings was something that I was answering all the time. So I put together, all the Zoom items together, and asynchronous or synchronous meeting tips and Google Meet resources. And so this was my website. You can scroll through and see, I've really thought, okay, what is going to be beneficial to my teachers? And so that is how I decided to make these different collections and these different sections. And so if you're unsure on how to do this particular thing, and maybe it's a little bit overwhelming, I've given you that link over here on your collection. so that you can go to those learning guides and that training to help you do that. But this is one of the most basic ways. It's just to use Wakelet as a website. The next way is one of the most popular ways. My friend Brandy Reams, she talks about this all the time. She's a Wakelet ambassador. She uses Wakelet to create newsletters for her kindergarten parents. And so we'll have that load up. But the great thing about using it as newsletters, you can see she archived the newsletters for last year. So now she has a collection called 2020 or 2020, 2021. And so she's custom her header. You can go follow her if you want. And then she has her collection really organized by weeks. So week 1, here's the introduction to everything. And week 2, here's some news and content. And then with week 3, she's putting dates there so that the parents know exactly where they need to go. So we'll go look at one of her most recent ones. We'll do 22nd to 26th. So that was this last week. And so she's put everything together. I see that they read a book, one of my favorite books, Stella Luna, which it should be loading. And I'm guessing, yep, there it is. So she has put together important reminders for her parents. Like obviously Spirit Weeks are happening. I know Red Ribbon Week is happening. So she's listed that. She's giving reminders to those parents. She's added a festival flyer that I'm sure her school was sent. She's added all like sign up geniuses for her parents. This is such a great hub. I'm just going to tell you, as a parent, as an elementary parent, this is so great because when she adds things, I'm just going to the same link every time and it's updating. And so there's the story of the week. So that's Brandy Reams. She is on Twitter. I cannot remember her Twitter handle off the top of my head, but you can go follow her on Wakelet and you can go look at all of her little newsletters. I just think that's a great communication tool for parents and teachers. And it's really good if your principal or administrators are asking, you know, what's going on in your classroom this week, or, you know, show evidence of the learning this week. So you definitely can put that together. The next way that you can use it to communicate is exactly what I am modeling for you right now, which is to use Wakelet for presentations. So I'm using my students as an example, but I do this exact same process when I present for all of you. The first thing that we do is we put together a Google Doc. So my students, I always tell you, students can lead in any situation if you give them the opportunity. So they were asked to present for DigCit Week last week, and they created this document. So I'm actually going to open it because I want you to see their work here. They started, 3 of them started the document, then they shared it with everybody else that was going to be presenting. And then I went in and added notes, like I completed the registration link, I completed the details, and here's our name, here's what we're going to talk about, here are the graphics that need to happen. And they actually created an outline. And again, I tell you every time I present, they tell me what I'm doing. So on the presentation, I see my name. I have to talk about who we are, what we do, and why we do it. And then they're going to take over from there. They're going to talk about, you know, how does COVID change things? So they're using Google Docs first, and they're putting that outline together. So they're doing all the planning. And then what they did is they took that planning and they went in and made a Wakelet collection. So they are all over 13. That's what you need to know. They're all over 13. So they have accounts and they can create those collections. But I also have an account and I actually created this for them. But we're going to scroll down and see. You can tell right here that Wyatt added this graphic on October 18th. This is what I love. It timestamps it. I know when Wyatt added the graphic. I can see which student added the graphic. You can do this with your younger learners. So what you would do is you would hit that invite button. And you can see it says invite contributors. And for those little learners, I would use the QR code if they have their iPads or devices. The other thing you can do is you can copy that link over into your learning management system, which is what I did. And I said, hey, I created the collection, but I want you to add the pieces. So I was like the owner, but they are contributing, and it's giving them credit for contributing and time stamping it. So I think this is very important. This is a really big example of collaboration in the classroom. And I absolutely believe, my fifth grader could do this. So, I mean, you could take this down to little learners, QR codes, links, and it will walk you through. So again, as an ambassador, if you have any specific needs or questions, you can reach out to me at any time and I can help you do that. So we're going to keep going because I want you to see they added all of this here. They added the tips for students. Olivia was responsible for that. She knew that she needed to create that. They've added their signature down here so that they would get credit for that. Then Aaron added some research behind what they were talking about. Again, they presented from this Wakelet specifically. Then Honora worked on teacher tips, and she has some bunsies that she's added that she created that she was specifically going to talk about here. And then they talked about the student ambassador program. And that was our presentation for that DigCit, how to find media balance in the classroom. And that is one way that you can have your students engage. You could do this process, but you also could have your students do this. And so this whole collaboration piece in this Wakelet collection is huge. I created it, I shared it out, but they knew which pieces they were responsible to add. You could add, you could have your students add a Google slide. You could have them add Adobe Spark posts, which will link in there very easily. I know that Wakelet has partnered with Adobe as well as Google just recently. So there's lots of ways to have them contribute into those collections, but that's a presentation example. The next thing that is very big, and I have talked about this really often, and I know some of you may have not heard of it. So that is why I'm sharing it again. And I want you to know that I will help you. You just have to email me, reach out on Twitter, and I can share with you how I do this. But especially this year, these student-paced lessons were the very best thing that I ever did because I was having to support teachers even more than normal. But I also am responsible for these 10 students that are in my class, and I need them to meet learning goals and objectives that are outlined in the TEKS. So I put together these self-paced lessons. Now I want to show you, and I might have, here it is. I want to show you this because this picture right here kind of shows you what I've done. I have added these self-paced lessons from Wakelet into Google Classroom, and I've put it under their learning certifications, and I named them Module 1, Module 2, and Module 3. So what happens is they click on the modules. For example, Module 1, they click on that. It takes them to this Wakelet collection. Now, you could do this with your GT students. I mean, you could do that. There's so many different ways you can implement this. This is just an example of how I'm doing it, but I want you to see they go to this Module 1, and I tell them it's a self-paced lesson, and the whole goal of this is for them to be Google Level 1 and Level 2 certified. So I always like to put the purpose here, and then I add the learning objectives here for them. And not just for them, but for me and for my administrators, if anyone were to ask. Then I say, okay, you can do this module in whatever order you want. So you want to read and watch? Absolutely. Maybe you want to skip to this Flipgrid reflection and you can do that first. Or maybe you just want to start with the skills checklist and you can go to these PDFs and you can open them up and check those off. So the whole goal here is giving them choice. I want to give them choice, but I also want to have them lead themselves through their learning. I want them to take responsibility. And also what that does is it frees me up so that I can support my teachers even more. So the students will work through this if they're not helping students with their iPad issues or helping teachers. So then I give them some project practice. Again, this is a Wakelet collection that I put in a Wakelet collection. And they're self-pacing through their study. Then I give them the official links for Google Educator certification. And then I tell them, here's what you can expect to take when you take the exam. And actually this is happening right now. They're actually registering and taking level 1 and level 2 exams. You can see it's due by December 20th. So I've given them the due date here. The due date is also in their Google Classroom. And so they know that this has to happen before December 2020. So that is how I am running my classroom currently, right now. I have added student leadership lesson plans for you, a digital citizenship lesson. You definitely, I think that they are copyable. So that's the other great thing is if I wanted to edit this collection, so you will have to tell me and make sure you email me or tweet me, but I can go in as the owner of a collection and I can make it copyable. Okay. So I want to make sure that if you access any of those self-paced lesson plans, you let me know if you want a copy. If it's not letting you make a copy, I will allow you to do that. So you just have to reach out to me. But I've given you several examples: digital citizenship, student leadership. And then I've shown you how I use my learning management system with Wakelet. If you're using Canvas or Schoology, there should be a way to just embed those Wakelets within that learning management system so they never actually have to leave that spot. So we can talk about that too if you have specific questions. And the other thing that I have them do is I actually work through the student ambassador program. And I've taken this program, shout out to Wakelet and to Miss Beth. I was able to work on this project with them along with Mary Alice and Deb Zeman. But we put this together and I actually have them self-pacing through the 6 C's. So it talks about digital citizenship, curation, critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration. And they're self-pacing through that Google Classroom as well. I do that in the spring semester. So my students haven't actually started that. And I actually also added a tweet here so you could go hear from a student specifically talking about her experience with the student ambassador program. But for me, this has really helped me, one, give the students the ability to self-pace and teaching them that skill, because the truth is a lot of our students are expecting all of that learning to be kind of spoon-fed or given on, I always say, on a gold platter. My students, when they come to me, struggle with this. And so I think having some self-paced lessons is really a great opportunity to empower your students and teaching them how to really guide themselves, pace themselves, time management, project management. Those are all skills that you all know we need in our fields of career. So I just like giving them that opportunity, and it really helps me teach them that skill before they graduate. So that is the self-paced lessons. The next piece is the social emotional learning activities. So I've talked about One Song for Life on the other session I did, but I want to talk about it on this one. I had a collection. I created this collection, and I'm going to show it to you. I'm not actually going to play any music again because I do not want to violate copyright. So I had my teachers actually do this. So we're talking social emotional for teachers. Okay. You could do this with your students, and I think it's a great team building activity. It kind of gives you some insight into what they're feeling based on the song that they choose here. Again, I created this myself. So I put in a custom header, and then I've told my teachers, I want you to use the collaboration link I've given you, want you to edit. I kind of walk them through it, and then I want them to add their own song. So they went to YouTube and they picked the song that they would use as a walk-up song if they were going to walk into the classroom every day or walk into a room. And so it tells you again who added it, and it timestamps it for you. So again, that collaboration piece, really working together and letting them lead that learning, lead that collection. You're just the owner of it. So I love this. We actually, what I could do, and I have not done this yet, but I may do this tomorrow, is put together all of their songs into a shared like Spotify playlist or something that I can share with them. I just think that's a great idea. The other thing I could do is have this playing for my teachers before we have meetings or PLC times. So I just really like to hit that. I think it's very important, especially this year, to have some fun things. And I think music is a really great way to do that with students and teachers as well. The next thing, this is actually an assignment. So I talk about Enneagram numbers often. I love when I can find people who want to talk about that with me, but it helps me know my students and my teachers better. And so when I have new teachers or new students, I always have them take this fast Enneagram test. Now, I've been asked previously if there is an elementary version of this, and the truth is there isn't. I haven't found one. If you can find an elementary version for kids to take, like Enneagram for kids, please share it with me. What I did with my own son, who is 10, I went to the quiz, and actually this would be a great parenting activity you could have your kids do. I asked him the questions and he gave me his answers, and I filled that out, and it gave me his top 3 numbers. So I did this with students, and the goal here was for them not only to do an Enneagram, like do the quiz and come up with their top 3 numbers, but then I said, I want you to go to this creation, so you can see it was created by SWAT, and I want you to add your graphic. So I tell them, you have to create a graphic using your Enneagram results and any design skills you have. So I'm also kind of testing them on that. And then I want you to post it. And so you can see that they came up with all sorts of things, but I want to point out this particular graphic. So this student was Wyatt. And I had really been working with him on his graphic design, and he turned this into me, and I kind of was blown away, because the thing is, I didn't stand up and lecture him about graphic design. He went through those self-paced lessons I talked about earlier in Wakelet, and I had embedded videos and different little mini projects. And what I found is he was learning the material, and now he was applying it, and I could see that he had learned it visually with his number 6. So you can see, again, this one isn't time stamped, but it is date stamped with his with their first and last names, depending on what they entered when they came to the collection. So again, I created the collection as SWAT. Then I invited them to be a contributor, because you want them to contribute to that. So you give them the QR code or the link. And they do not have to have an account to edit the collection. Once they have that link, they can just go add in any of their artifacts. So this is one of my favorite things. They all did something different. Aaron did like the infographic over here, but I loved this collection, and it really engaged them and got them talking about their numbers. It also made them very self-aware of the things that were maybe perceived as negative, but we just needed to work on those things, and then they can become super positive characteristics of each of them. Next, you can use Wakelet as a student digital portfolio. I've given you 2 examples, Avery and Julie. They look completely different. So I'm going to show you Avery's first. When I click on Avery's digital portfolio, it's going to take me specifically to a collection. I'm going to go ahead and click on Julie's, because I'm going to show you, I want to showcase the difference here. Avery's is a collection. I know that because I can follow her and then I can click on her name. So she made her digital portfolio into only one collection. She has her calligraphy account, her professional Twitter account. She has her resume here. So that gave us an opportunity to talk about digital citizenship and not putting your, like example, your phone number and your address on this copy that you're going to show to the world. She's added presentations that she's been a part of, or podcasts or certificates. So this is Avery's portfolio. She's added videos and graphics that she's created here. This was really great for her as she was applying for colleges. So that's Avery. And then Julie's looks a little bit different. Julie's, I'm going to refresh this. Julie's portfolio, she used her profile like I showed you in the very beginning. She used it sort of as a website. So she says, here's my portfolio link and her resume. So she's put these together. She created her resume in Canva. But I'm going to click on this portfolio because I want to show you what she's done. She was one of the very first students I ever saw to take Wakelet and just honestly make it into something I had never seen before. And she's the one that taught me how to use Wakelet. So when I wasn't sure and I was kind of like, this tool is not really benefiting me, Julie is actually the one that showed me how it could benefit me. So she's linked her professional Twitter and she has a professional Instagram account. And I believe she has, you can see, she's a website. So she linked that as well. This is her profile. And she put sections in her profile. So she has a digital portfolio section. She's showing her student Wakelet ambassador stuff. Then she split it into all of her SWAT things that she has created. And then you get into her cake business. And this is what I want to showcase. See, when Julie came to me, she didn't have a cake business. But by the end of her senior year, she was so booked that she couldn't take any more orders before she went to college. And if you scroll all the way down to the very beginning of this collection, you can see some of her beginning work. And what that does is it shows you her progress, and it also shows her progress. So she started off very basic. I remember I was one of her very first customers, and these cakes are ones that she made for me for my kids' birthdays. So very, very basic here. She was just starting out. And then as you scroll up, you see her progress. She sees her progress. Now she's building a business and people are paying her at some of these cakes were almost $100 for her to make and deliver to those customers. So now she's able to really see the power of her portfolio. It has her engaged. She took this entire thing and made an Instagram, Madam Pastry. She has a website now, and she comes back from college. She'll be back in a couple of months, and she's already taking orders for Christmas break. For different Christmas gifts. But you can see she has done some really incredible things here. And again, it's that engagement in Wakelet. That was never part of my assignment. I gave her a small piece, do your resume, put your portfolio on there, and she sort of just took off with it. So I wanted you to see the difference. They both are right. Avery's portfolio is exactly what I wanted, and Julie's portfolio has everything I asked for and then some. So I always say there is a way, not the way. They both have done great jobs, and I think this is a great way to have your students empowered and engaging with Wakelet. You could do this at the elementary level. You could have them add maybe their best piece of work for that grading period. And you could have a collection for each of your students. If you're an elementary teacher and you have 25 students, you could go ahead and create those and just make them a collaborator like we've been talking about. You would invite them and make them a collaborator so they could go add to their own collections. I know we're running close to being out of time, so I want to talk about the Spaces feature. And this is a new feature on Wakelet, and it's incredible. This is actually have started kind of dividing all of the things I create. So this is my main account. At Tisha Poncio is my Wakelet name and account link. Then you can see I have a SWAT space. And then I have a school digital learning space. And then I also have a Wakelet ambassador space. And so what I've done is I've started creating collections in my SWAT space for my SWAT class. And I have easy access. I just click on this little circle and it takes me to all those collections. And then if I have digital learning and digital coaching collections specifically, I click on this one, and it allows me and affords me the opportunity to move fluidly between those different spaces. So that is a really great idea. You could use it for clubs if you're a high school teacher or sponsor different clubs. If you maybe help with PTA, maybe you're the contact person, or, it honestly you could do it with anything. You could have a space for each class. It really is up to you how you organize that. But I love this new feature, and I really just wanted to point that out. The next thing is a call to action. I've added this for you, how students use Wakelet. I wanted you to have this video. If you also look at If you start the video at 51:18, you will hear my own students give a call to action for all teachers in the world. And I think it's just really important to hear from students. They're using their voices for good, and their voices are very powerful. And I think it's very important for us to hear their feedback and kind of their challenge to us as educators. So I've included that for you to just watch on your own time. Maybe have it playing in the background while you're grading papers. To follow up and end our session, I have given you some extended learning choice boards. I've made a beginner choice board for you and an intermediate choice board. I wanted to give you the ability to go in and practice. I want you to go in and practice and start small. Don't feel like you have to, be Julie and start a cake business after this session. in no way did I start off being an expert with Wakelet. Not at all. It took me little by little, step by step. And it really took me giving my students the opportunity to use it and then having them teach me. That was the really powerful moment. So I really just want to leave you with that. It's okay to flip the script and let your students teach you. I'm always going to be an advocate for that because that's what's working for me. When I'm resistant, my students can pull me over and be like, hey, Ms. Poncio, we need you to learn among us. I'm like, I don't know what that's about, but okay. So I've added my email here, tishajponcio@gmail.com, and my Twitter handle is @TexasTechChick. And you can contact me anytime specifically about Wakelet and implementing Wakelet in the classroom. Do we have any questions, Josh?
I have not seen any.
Okay.
Have you caught any, Miss Salinas?
No, they're just comments thanking you, appreciating you for going over Wakelet with them.
Yeah. I created that beginning Wakelet because I had so many teachers saying to me, I really don't know what it is. It's very confusing. And I'm always honest and authentic about that because when I started, I really was like, this is a no-go for me. This Wakelet thing is not going to be a thing I want to do. And the truth is, once I started doing it, Josh, I'm in Wakelet all the time and I'm finding bugs for Wakelet and I'm telling them this doesn't work or this is what we want for our teachers or our teachers or students are asking for this. So I say, give it a chance. And again, start small and let your students kind of just see what happens.
Okay. So they did ask for your Twitter handle again.
Okay. It's at TXTECHCHICK at Texas Tech Chick.
And I posted that. One thing, a lot of teachers are now using LMSs like Schoology and Canvas.
Right.
And you mentioned using Google Classroom.
Yes.
How does Wakelet work in some of those other LMSs? Does it work pretty good? Is it got some bugs?
Yes. So I do not have this up, but if anybody wants to see an example, I have an example. I created a course in Canvas and I used Wakelet and I was able to very easily embed those Wakelet collections within my Canvas course modules so that my students were not even having to leave the Canvas space, right? Like I didn't want them to move around. I know that's always a thought process. I don't want my kids to leave. So that is another reason I love it because it integrates. And if it doesn't, Josh, let me know what you want it to do and I will reach out to Wakelet support and I will ask them to make that work. They honestly have a heart for teachers and they want to hear from all of you. So if there's something you need, pass it on to me and I will pass it on to them for sure. But I haven't ran into any weird glitches. Now, if you do, because Josh, I do find bugs. They were actually joking with me for a while that I was finding all of the bugs and I wasn't even really meaning to. I was just trying to get some things accomplished. But if you find something, let me know. I will pass it on to them and we'll get that worked out for you for sure.
Okay.
There's a question. With so many tech tools, do you stick with this as a primary tool for you in your classroom so students aren't overwhelmed? And that was from Aaron Weber.
Aaron, that is the best question all day because here is what I'm going to tell you. Suddenly, when we become remote learning, instructors and experts, honestly, nobody's an expert right now. The thing is, you stick to what you know. So my advice to my own teachers, you take 1 to 3 tools and you don't try to implement anymore. I know in this day and age, everybody's trying to throw digital tools at you. But what I want you to remember is always focus on those learning goals and have 1 to 3 tools in your digital tool belt that you can go to that's going to help you achieve those learning goals, right? So for me, I usually stick with Wakelet and Flipgrid. Right now, that's all I'm really sticking with. And obviously Google, because we're a Google school. So stick with what you're using, stick with what you know. Do not try to, don't try to be the tech superhero. I'm not even trying to be the tech superhero these days. A cognitive overload is actually a thing. And so I get it. You're like, I don't want to hear any more about this. My teachers, honestly, it's different. Josh, I have had to totally pivot the way I coach my teachers right now because they're like, Tisha, We love you, but we don't want to hear about anything new. And I'm like, cool. Like, that's awesome. I don't have the capacity to even learn anything new right now. So stick with what you know. I use Wakelet. I use Google. I use Flipgrid. I let my kids, if they say, I want to use Buncee or I want to use Adobe Spark, I go, absolutely. But I'm not the expert. So just know, as students, if you're going to use that, you kind of have to learn that on your own, which I don't think is a bad thing, right? Like, we can't be the knowers of all the things.
No, it's actually something that I constantly fight myself over, is trying to jump around to all the cool new tech tools and things like that,
Yes.
and realize that nobody has time for that anymore. So you mentioned TikTok in the last session, and I haven't joined TikTok because I was just like, I resisted Instagram forever for those reasons, because I just didn't want to have to learn something new, but I realized I can't sit still.
Yes. I want to sit on that for a minute, Josh. I want us to talk about that, because I will tell you, and I know you're a lot like me. I used to want to jump into it. I'd be like, yeah, let's see what this is about. But my own brain does not have the capacity. But what I've started doing, this is what I did. And this is kind of how I implement any new technology. So everybody was talking about TikTok, and I was very anti-TikTok. Y'all, I'm probably like anti everything in the beginning, and then somebody convinces me why I shouldn't be. That's how I start off with everything. So I decided to sign up for the account, not because I was going to create content, because I wanted, again, to see what was so intriguing about this TikTok thing. So I signed up. Now I use it as a brain break. So when I need to step away from like reality for a minute, I just watch some videos. I set a timer and I watched some videos, and then I started thinking, well, this is intriguing. How are they doing this? And then I asked my students, again, it's always my students teaching me. And they said, well, Miss Poncio, this is an inside joke. So they helped me create a TikTok. I didn't post it. You're not going to find it anywhere. Okay. Like, don't go looking for it, because it's not out there. I'm private. I'm not like trying to be TikTok famous. So there's this running joke. Everybody calls me Tisha. And if you notice, there is not an R in my name. So for my whole life, people have called me Tisha. And I've always said, names are so important. Let's call people by their actual name. Let's not add letters or weird pronunciations. Well, my daughters, this is how it all started. My daughters overheard someone calling me Tisha, who had known me for a really long time. And they just kind of laughed. And they said, Mom, you need to make one of those TikToks. And I was like, I don't want to dance, because I thought that's what it was about. And they said, no, it's the TikTok with the mic, like the megaphone voice and the music in the background. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So they show me the video, and it's like, I go, oh, I get it. Like, I kind of understand, like, it's a teaching moment with the music and okay. So I tried to do it. It took me 1 hour to figure out how to do a 15-second video. All right. That's the first thing you should know. Even my daughter was like, I don't create content. I have no idea. You have to do it in a certain order. And then you have to make sure it's right. And then you have to make sure it's a very complicated process. But my video went like this. You have to stop calling me Tisha. That's not my name. Listen, you're supposed to say it exactly like that, Josh. I don't understand the TikTok language still, but I'm learning, and I'm open to learning. And that is really what it's all about, right? Be open to learning, but be okay with boundaries. So I told my kids, no, I'm not ready to learn Among Us. I'm not ready. I can't do it. I can't even go on Instagram right now. But yesterday, the opportunity arose, and they said, Miss Poncio, we want to teach you Among Us. And I said, okay, I have some time and some capacity, because it was a Friday. And I realized that all these kids, let me just tell you, I'm going to leave you with this, okay? If your kids are telling you they don't know how to navigate Google Classroom to find an assignment or an announcement, or they're in your learning management system and they don't understand the instructions, let me just tell you that TikTok and Among Us are giving zero instructions. But they are figuring that out. And so I know I am so, I just want to stress that. I told my teachers, they know where it is. They know how it works. Do not let them tell you they don't, because they are figuring it out and critically thinking these games and these apps all by themselves. So That's what I got for you.
So we have a couple questions. Miss Salinas, you want to read one?
Let's see. What do you think about the Wakelet Student Ambassador Program by Gwen Hilliard?
Okay. What do I think about it? Well, I love it. I love it because I helped design it. I help write the task and the learning objectives for it. And so I'm going to tell you I love it. But here's what happened in my own classroom. Once we had that written out, we beta tested it with my students. I would, if you're going to do the Student Ambassador Program, I would pace yourself. I would pace your students. Do not set unrealistic expectations for them or you. You know, give them ample amount of time. When I beta tested it, I only had 3 weeks. So my actual students finished all 6 tasks in 3 weeks, and they were mad at me for it. Like, I'm not going to even lie to you, but I needed their feedback. Here's what happened. We had some of the most authentic questions and discussions about digital citizenship, about communication, about collaboration. They learned how to use Wakelet, not even knowing that they were learning how to use Wakelet because they were so focused on those tasks. And I say, give them time. It could be in their classroom as an extra credit project. It could be if you have kids that are just whipping through your assignments and you don't want to assign anything else, you can give them certificates. They will earn badges. I think it's just a great supplemental piece. And it hits so many different aspects. Really, they're guiding that learning. And I put a tweet in there specifically from a student from India who just finished the program. And something she says is, I had no idea what I was actually learning as I was doing this process. But then at the very end, she realizes, you know, she's learned all of these skills now. So I love it. I love the idea. And I think if you have the ability to implement that in your classroom, you absolutely should.
And we have one more question. Is there time?
You got about 1 minute.
Okay. This is another question from Aaron Weber. So is there any requirement in order to share and embed for students? Do you need an upgraded account, or do the students need an account?
So no, you do not have to upgrade the account. Wakelet accounts are free. They always will be free. So as the educator, you would sign up for the account. You can put together links for projects or books or whatever your unit is about, and you can embed that collection into your learning management system. Your students do not have to have an account to access it, and they do not have to have an account to collaborate and be a collaborator in there.
Okay, thank you so much. We are done for the session, and sorry, well, I was trying to do 2 things at once. We're done for the session. Thank you, Tisha, for hosting us and talking about Wakelet. I've learned a lot, and I'm definitely going to check out Among Us.
Yes.
As well as maybe take a look at TikTok. I do want to mention that you will be, everyone that has been in the session will be getting an Eventbrite form emailed to them, and you will need the super secret password, which is learn. So this session, the password is learn, and it's been up for quite some time at the bottom of the screen. If you've not been receiving the emails, because they are being sent, you need to make sure you have registered and put in the correct email in Eventbrite. That's the only way we have to reach out to any of the attendees. So if you didn't register through Eventbrite, you're not going to be able to get that certificate sent to you. So thank you very much. I had a great time. And I think you have a couple more sessions later, right?
I do. I am going to do a repeat of this session, which is Wakelet student engagement. And I'm going to do a repeat later this afternoon on creativity. So join me this afternoon. Tell your friends. Thank you, Josh. Thank both my co-hosts. Yeah, you guys have been great. I've enjoyed it. And I'll see you all this afternoon.
Thank you. And everybody have a good day. Don't forget to look at the schedule and pick out your next session. We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.